How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone. I have surpassed 10,000 subscribers, and that is because of each and every one of you, whether you've been with me from the beginning or you're a recent subscriber and supporter. I want to thank each and every one of you at this time. So with that being said, this is the third episode of Q&A, and we're going to dig right into it. The first question was, how do I feel about the new J35 and the new Pilot that is comes into 2023 Honda Pilots and going forward. I suspect that it will be in the Odysseys and the Passports and the Ridgelines, etc. A similar engine could also be found in the MDX and the TLX Type S. But this question was specific to the Pilot, although my answers will also apply to those engines as well. So first thing, it has quad VTC, and that is oil driven. So I do have a concern that those VTC gears can leak oil over time. Now, this is just a suspicion, and obviously I have not had one apart just yet, and hopefully I don't, because that means something, obviously catastrophically went bad. But I am concerned with them leaking long term. So we will have to see how that applies in the future and what will happen as far as that, but something to keep in the back of your mind. And obviously, if I run across one that does leak, then I will make a video on that and to just kind of notify you guys, and I'll get a better understanding of how it works and everything like that. Also, it does have VCM. I'm not really concerned about the VCM. It's really a smooth transition, and we really haven't had any issues with oil consumption post Earth Dream engines, so that is encouraging, and I don't foresee that being an issue, although that's something that could be an issue. But it's too early to tell. Anything post Earth Dreams really hasn't had any issues with consumption issues, so if you're concerned with that, I probably wouldn't worry too much about that. And finally, part 3 of this question is carbon buildup. Now, anything direct injection is going to be more susceptible to carbon buildup. There is no port injection on this, unlike some other engines out there. That would be a really nice feature, although it is what it is. That's not something Honda's doing right now. And I've had a couple of TLX Type S intake manifolds off to upgrade to a ported one, and as early as about 10,000 miles or so, there is some carbon buildup there. So there's been carbon buildup even on the earlier Earth Dreams engines, so like the 2016 Pilots and stuff like that. When we do injectors, there's plenty of carbon in there. I'm sure that's obviously causes some power restraints and stuff like that, but we don't see anything, no carbon breakdowns or anything like that going into the engine, no particles going in there, and we don't really see performance being affected. So it's just, again, something to keep an eye on. If you really were concerned with it, you could always do like some sort of a cleaner, and that's always people are skeptical about that. There is you could also do a walnut blasting, but that could go very wrong very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So is there going to be carbon buildup? Absolutely. Is this something the average person is going to have to be worried or concerned with? I don't think so. So I hope that answers that question for you, and let's move on to the next one. So next question is on some 10th generation Accords. There is a loud humming and really ear-piercing noise that comes from the ANC, or active noise control. And what happens was there is a couple of microphones throughout the headliner that picks up a noise, and as you're driving, the radio and stuff's supposed to increase volume to kind of flood out the outside noise. So what happens is in manufacturing, some of them got covered with some foam and is really just obstructing the microphones and thinking it needs to elevate the cabin noise when it doesn't. So there is a service bulletin for this, and you simply just take a look at the mics and replace as needed. The person's question was, is it the module or is it the mics themselves? And it's 9 out of 10 times the mic or mics. So it could be more than one. And it's a pretty simple repair overall. But, I wouldn't attempt to do it myself or anything like that if you don't know what you're doing. But to answer your question, it is the mics. and not the modules 9 out of 10 times. And if you have this noise, there is no mistaking it. It's very, very annoying and ear piercing, and it'll happen at like very low RPMs. And most people just can't take the noise and come in like losing their mind. So if you've had this noise, I think the Bolton is 18 to 20 accords, but it could, I have seen it on even later accords happen. So if you have this noise, you've witnessed it, you definitely know what I'm talking about. And obviously you want to get that addressed, because there's no way anybody could drive with that for a very long time. All right, so the next question is, can or does Honda know if your car has been flashed? So from my end as a technician, if you bring a car to me that was flashed and flashed back, I will not be able to tell. Now, if you bring a car to me that's flashed and obviously something happens, then obviously I'm gonna look for some stuff. The easiest thing I could look for, I mean, there's a lot of little telltale signs that I could tell. People are sloppy when they work, and I could tell if something's been moved around, or, I could definitely tell if the car's been modified before and put back to stock. But to answer your question is, if you bring a car to me on a flash or a map that's not OEM, easiest way to tell is obviously boost targets normally elevated to, a higher target. So that would be one of the first things that I look for, and it's very easy to tell. The turbo pressure is going to be higher, and that's very easy to tell. Now, these cars do not, or these ECUs, I should say, do not have a flash counter. So if you flash back to stock, I'm not going to be able to tell in any way, shape, or form. Some people like to argue that Honda engineers could tell, and I can't say that because obviously I'm not part of that department. But anytime you're modifying anything on your car, especially with a flash, you're playing with fire. So if that dealer wants to play hardball with you and they suspect something or they sniff something that obviously the car's been modified or altered in any way, then they have the right to deny your claim as long as it was, pertain to that issue. So for example, if you have some sort of a check engine light and it happens to be overboost, underboost code, or whatever the case may be, something along those lines, and you have an intercooler or anything like that, that's room for an argument, right? Not one that I would make, but a lot of dealers are gonna just write that off and say, all right, well, this car's been modified and you're on your own. So once again, if you're not willing to take that risk, don't do it. Now, if your car comes in with the noise from the suspension and you have a front mount intercooler or an intake or whatever, then obviously that's not going to matter because that doesn't pertain to the issue you're having at this time. So that's that. But to answer your question, on my end, I can't tell if it's been flashed back to stock. But again, some people argue that, Honda engineers and Honda's software department could tell, but I've never had that issue. Normally people that will modify cars, they, forget about all that stuff, and they just typically assume their warranty's been voided and don't even try to push, the situation. Although you do get some slick people that obviously turbos have been replaced and stuff like that. And, they try to come in and, just act all dumb and stuff. And one tip I can tell you guys is be honest. 9 out of 10 times, we're going to try to work with you. But if you lie to us from the get, then, there's obviously a trust issue there. And at that point, I would say, well, if this guy's willing to lie to me, then I'm not going to try to help him because, I'm here to make money at the end of the day. And stuff does happen. But let's just work together because you lying to us gets us nowhere. And it just makes my job harder, and you make it harder on yourself as well. All right, so the next question is a very fair question and something that never really been asked to me before, and I don't think a lot of people even think about this. So a lot of these new cars, and this is not just Honda. Obviously, I'm going to answer because it's a Honda-related issue, but this is mostly all the new cars. So all these newer cars have an auto start-stop feature where you pull up to a stop sign or a light. Cars running at optimal conditions, and a car shuts off to save gas, emissions and all that, BS or whatever, which I think is complete nonsense. But anyways, does that constant turning off, turning on, turning off, turning on take a toll on the starter and the battery? And the answer is absolutely. Obviously, the more times the car or the starter starts the engine, then the more wear it's going to have, and it's going to wear out more prematurely. Same thing for the battery. The more it has to constantly give that big jolt of power to the starter, then the faster it's gonna wear out. And obviously, as the car gets older, you can definitely expect it to wear out more prematurely than not. Honda starters have been iffy lately, so we have some that last 200,000 miles and a couple that go every 30-40,000 miles. So it gets tricky there. But if you do have one of these cars with the auto start stop feature, I would recommend personally to turn it off. I don't think it's worth the extra maintenance down the road, and I really don't think it does much for the EPA and fuel economy or anything in that regards. On my TLX and my Pilot, I turn both off manually. They do have kits that eliminate that. That is something you could definitely hop on, and if you're concerned with that, I would probably recommend that. Although I just every time I start the car, push the button and eliminate that from happening. So that is that, and that was definitely a solid question that most people haven't asked me previously. All right, so for our final question, Phearable Stage 3 tune on an Accord, is it worth it? And absolutely, anytime you have a turbo car, a tune, whether it be just K-Tune or Flash Pro, or obviously a more aggressive tune, is going to be your best bang for the buck for about $1,000 or so. Or if you just do the base map, a couple $100, under $1,000, you can have a significant increase in power and torque. So is it worth it on a completely stock car? Absolutely. Would it be better with supporting mods? For sure. I think one of the most underrated mods is an intercooler, and you're not going to really get any power increase per se, but you will have a consistent power, so you're not going to notice as much heat soaking in that regards. But absolutely, I would do minimum some sort of an intake setup, a closed box intake setup. You don't want the intake to get all heat soaked. I would definitely do a front mount intercooler. Usually PRL is my go-to, although there's a couple of good different ones, like 27-1, Mishimoto I'm a little iffy on, but they do work pretty well. And I would definitely do at least those two mods in conjunction with the Flash. As well as some sort of a downpipe, just to get the exhaust flowing a little bit better. It has been proven that the stock exhaust flows pretty well, and even a downpipe, but I would definitely get some sort of aftermarket downpipe in there. Once again, PRL would be my go-to choice. And but yeah, absolutely. I think, once again, a Flash, especially if you get something a little bit more aggressive, by far is going to be your number one power maker at that point, best bang for the buck. And you're going to want to use 91 or better fuel. Don't go flashing your car and use 87. If you can't afford the better octane or better quality fuel, then you have no business doing any sorts of flashing or modifications at all. And I made a 1.5T head gasket issue video. And even on OEM turbo cars, I'm going to be recommending 91 or better. In Jersey here, we have 93. Actually, we've recently got 94 back from Sunoco, so that's what I'm using on my TLX Type S, and the wife's Pilot gets a 93. So once again, yes, absolutely, Phearable Stage 3 is worth it for sure. Even better would be a custom tune, but yes, for best bang for the buck, absolutely, and you have my go-ahead from that. Once again, don't forget, anytime you're modifying your car, you're playing with fire, especially once you're messing with the ECU flashes. And it could get a little bit tricky if you run across some issues that would be warranty based covered and potentially could avoid that warranty. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Once again, if you have any questions you want me to answer on next week's video, drop a comment down below, and I try to answer some of those questions on the comment section as well if they're a simple question. And obviously I don't want to drag the video too long, but once again, if you have a question I haven't answered, ask it in the comments of this video, and I'll try to get to it on the next video. That being said, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.